Okay. What's going on, y'all? Trial and error back for another week. I'm Brian.
Fearless here.
All right. And so this week we're talking about basically the Overton window and the death of intellectualism.
Hey, I'll
Um,
be right back, bro. Right
all
back.
right. And one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this is um, we're kind of running into this thing where we're kind of seeing the death of knowing things. And I feel like that's an important conversation to have because people like we've reached this point where people are happy not knowing stuff. And so we're going to talk about how the Overton window plays into it. Fearless has some historical examples. We're going to explain what the Overton window is. Um, and this is kind of a conversation. It's not necessarily a debate, but if you want to jump in, make sure that, we're keeping, make sure that you're adding to it. But we are also taking comments if people want to hop in on the conversation and jump in. Before we get too far into the thing, I'm gonna do a little bit of a pitch about our stuff. Up at the top of the screen, you're gonna see a QR code for my stand store. I'm basically making all of my copywriting assets, all my marketing assets available to y'all. And so you go to the stand store. So far, you're going to what I have on there right now is link to my community. You can book a call for a quick social media audit, or you can join my school community where you get direct access to me and my marketing brain. And so that's what I have out there. I'm going to be adding stuff to this. So you're going to start seeing more and more content loading up on my stand store. I think that, I have a lot of information I want to give and I'm kind of compelled to teach people. And so that's what we got going on. But I got a couple of things here. Let me get my stuff situated real quick. And so when we talk about when we're discussing this death of intellectualism, it's not just I don't frame intellectualism or intellect as agreeing with me or saying things that I'm in agreement with. I think we a lot of times, especially on social media, it always degenerates to that. The conversation always degenerates to the person that doesn't agree with me is dumb. Like that's what it boils down to. And I feel like that's kind of a reductive way of having conversations or interacting with one another on social media. So when I talk about the death of intellectualism, I'm talking about the concept that people are happy. Like, here's the thing. So you could tell somebody how something works, right? If they disbelieve what you're saying, they will manufacture their own way of it working. And that for them is a suitable answer, as opposed to them believing a thing that they can't conceptualize in their brain or they don't quite understand. They will make up an answer that they can understand themselves. And I almost feel like then you can go on social media, you can go on the internet and instantly confirm this fake reality that you've made up in your own head. And so that's how, at least how I frame it. I think we're running into this thing, and I've run into it a couple of times where you sit there and try to explain the nuts and bolts of how a thing works. And if the person that you're talking to doesn't really grasp it, they will just manufacture a version of reality in their own brain. And that's what we're talking about. We have unlimited access, unparalleled access to pretty much every piece of information that has ever been written or said or stated, all in the palm of our hands with these phones. And people functionally know less than they did 10 years ago. And people like I don't know if there's a parallel where we got instant access to all information and people's intellectual curiosity died or whatever. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're also going to be talking about the Overton window. And you guys are going to get a chance to see what that means from a media standpoint, the way that we consume information, the way that we have online discourse with one another, the way we interact with each other, what the Overton window actually is. So those are the things that we're going to be discussing today. There is this thing, and Fearless and I have talked about it. um, where we talk about how people see, right? There was a study that was done in the 90s where they talk about people having a profound misunderstanding of how vision works, where I believe it's the emissions theory of vision, where they think that the way that we see as human beings is that we emit something from our eyes and then it gets reflected back to us. And that's how we see. And it was a disturbing amount of adults that actually believe that, because the scientific explanation was too sciency for them. So they just manufactured a belief system based on things that they can understand. And whereas that used to be something that we viewed as problematic, it is not that anymore. Right. So but yeah, that's what this conversation is about. If you have comments you want to throw in your lot, throw in your 2 cents, go ahead and drop a comment. And chop them up on air. Fearless, I've kind of
Yes,
prepped it for
sir.
the show. What you got going, man?
Nothing. I just want to listen. 'Cause,
Okay.
you hit me up this morning like, hey man, let's talk about this. Perfect. I love it.
Okay. So I'm getting my notes together. If you got anything you want to pitch here, go ahead. I'm gonna be putting our notes on the screen for us here.
Not hit me up if you need to talk. That's basically about it.
Okay. So we're talking about the Overton window, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
should you want to show? I have an image queued up of what the Overton window
Go
essentially
ahead,
is.
show it.
All right. So we'll share the screen here so you guys can see what we're talking about. Share screen, share screen. All right. So when we're talking about the Overton window is essentially what is acceptable in the realm of public discourse, right? What things that are, and the way that they have it laid out is you have something that's a popular idea on the left, popular idea on the right. In the middle, it becomes policy, right? A public policy. And as you get further along with the window, you start shifting into sensible ideas that may not be mainstream, ideas that could be acceptable depending on the context, radical ideas, and then the unthinkable ideas. And that's kind of the spectrum, right? The
So
concept.
so
Go ahead.
let's give an example. So
Okay.
one of the things that I was reading about today was um like something like same sex marriage. That was so outside of that uh, window that it was like unthinkable. Yeah, you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Not just radical, but unthinkable. So
Hmm.
at first, that was an unthink. Matter of fact, they didn't even discuss that. Right? It wasn't even a possibility. Then, when people start bringing it up, it became radical. But then, what happens is what you keep hearing it, 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 and then it moves to acceptable, and then it's sensible, then it's something that's popular because more people, and now it's a policy.
Hmm.
So it doesn't start from the policy and then work itself out. It starts from unthinkable and works its way in.
Well, and so here's a couple of other examples. One that stuck in my brain with all the stuff going on with the feds investigating all these NBA players, sports gambling. Sports gambling used to be, I had a cousin, that had a bookie, and you had to get the bookie, and it was kind of this underground thing. There's subculture that was outside the law. And now you can have FanDuel put their commercial with your favorite athlete on the screen and say, gamble here with us. And it's gone from where it was outside the law to just ubiquitous, like it's everywhere in sports. I think it's weird. I think it's weird that
Yeah. So I honestly, so do I.
I think it's
So do
weird.
I. And I don't. Here's the thing. I don't like sports. Like I'll watch Bud's fights. I'll watch some. I watch the Super Bowl mainly for the commercials. But I don't like sports. I don't watch sports at all. But I've always known about people who bet. Like I don't even understand the concept of it. But I do know that you have to have a bookie back in the day. And if you didn't pay that person, you was gonna get banged on.
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember that.
Well, and the reason why I think it's weird is I'm not here to say gambling in a moral argument about gambling. I really don't care. My problem is, so we're putting all of this sports betting in proximity to where some of these sports betting entities can even have their logo on uniforms and on the court and everything. But if an athlete even touches the app to do any kind of sports betting, they are barred, they are banned, they got federal charges. Like there's an investigation that goes on. And so you have all of this stuff in proximity to it, and to the point where these sports betting things are hosting or are sponsoring teams and putting their names in on the floor on stadiums, which costs a fortune. So they're in proximity, but if the athletes even look that way, they lose their entire career and could go to jail.
I mean, well, no, that makes sense though, because look at the student athlete thing with the NCAA in general. I mean, look at how much money they made off the likeness and image of these kids going in there, but those kids could not take anything. They couldn't even accept a meal.
Yeah,
from McDonald's.
But now
without losing their scholarship and all kinds of stuff. But the NCAA, they made billions off of them.
And now the Overton window shifted because there's legislation, specifically in Nebraska, there's legislation where compensating athletes for name, image, and likeness is now written into the law of the state. And so NCAA, in order to operate in the state, has to comply with the law of the state and allow for it. And so the Overton window has shifted on that aspect, where that used to be something that was unthinkable, and now it's public policy.
Which is really crazy to me because, and again, I don't really understand what's all going on. So I'm just going to say what I do get and then go from there. But how many times did Floyd Mayweather bet on himself? How is it that he can bet on himself, but these other people cannot?
Vegas. Because
I don't understand the betting is betting. Well, gambling is gambling.
But Pete Rose, he got suspended. Like they destroyed that man's career for betting on himself.
Yes, he did.
They barred him from Hall of Fames and all kinds of other stuff.
Everything, right.
And so a lot of it is contextual. Like if you're in Vegas, gambling kind of goes along with it. That's kind of where Floyd was based out of. But even then, you know, some of these NBA guys, they're saying, I only ever bet on myself. That don't matter. They're going to nail you to the wall for it. And I guess for me,
I don't understand how, though.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because betting is still betting regardless.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense to have FanDuel is sponsoring this event where the players are playing and their logo is right there. And the pregame show is brought to you by FanDuel. The pregame show for the sporting event is brought to you by FanDuel. But if one of those players gets caught using FanDuel, putting a bet on themselves or using a prop bet on themselves, they will absolutely lose their entire career, and the feds will be investigating them because they're saying, well, they're rigging games. And so
really,
that's why, that's why, and the NBA stuff isn't even necessarily tied. Like some of the NBA stuff is tied to it. Most of it's really tied to the fact that some NBA players got jammed up. They were hosting poker games, and the mafia was tied to it, and they were luring people in, kind of a honeypot trap. They're luring people in and then using rigged tables to rip people off. But then there's part of it that does tie to the sports betting for the NBA, where players, they're investigating players for what they may or may not have done, what bets they may or not have placed. Here's my question. So the Overton window has shifted to make sports betting kind of mainstream, but these leagues, like, here's the thing. You don't see, that's our show, you don't see Pornhub sponsoring football games, do you? You don't see them sponsoring NFL games, do you? Because the NFL could come and say, absolutely not. We don't want them as our sponsor. It's not illegal, but they don't represent what we want our league to represent. Why can't they say the same to these sports betting companies, where they say, yeah, it's cool and everything that y'all exist and everything, but since we don't want our players involved, we can't have your name on this thing.
Right. I got you.
And so, but here's a couple other examples that we can have of the Overton window. Tattoos. The Overton window done shifted on tattoos. Okay. It used to be the sign of like
Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, if you were tatted up, that was the sign of you were outside of the norm and stuff like that. Now, Now, what's outside of the window is somebody who doesn't have tattoos, right? Who doesn't have a tattoo. It used to
A fresh slate.
right. So they're mainstream. Like you're seeing corporate people that have entire sleeves and stuff like that. And yeah, you still got to cover it up depending on what corporation you are. But now that stuff, the Overton window then shifted on that. Okay. Um, mental health. Mental health used to be like if you were struggling from a mental health standpoint, that was something you suffer in silence.
Right.
And the Overton window, it's a good thing the Overton window done shifted on it, but it's also a bad thing. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm kind of torn between this. It's a good thing because we're having these conversations about mental health out in the open, and it's not this monster. The Kennedys when they had was it I think it's RFK's aunt, where they tried to keep it so under wraps that they ended up lobotomizing that girl. Because of mental health things. And they're like, it might have been like autism or ADHD or something along those lines. They lobotomized her. And when I say lobotomized, that means they took a chisel and knocked a part of her brain loose. It used to be a suffer in silence kind of thing. And so it was stigmatized. Now people talk about going to therapy. People talk about if they're neurodivergent, they'll talk about it. I talk about having ADHD all the time on my streams, and so it used to be something that you were doing quiet. Now you're out there. Now here's the problem with it. We also have the rise of people that use therapeutic language in non-therapeutic situations where everybody's a narcissist. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has trauma. This is, everybody has this, and we're utilizing these professional, actual clinical terms to describe things that may or may not apply. And so the Overton window shifted on having conversations about mental health. And I think it's a good thing. But now there's the other side of the Overton window shifting where, and some of it is being forced. Like I feel like, and Fearless, you talked about this before we came on. We're talking about the parallels in Germany or what happened leading up to the war. Some of this is being forced where you have specific entities that are oppression minded. We'll say that, where they are dominance minded, where they are about cultural hierarchies and which color rules the world. You know where I'm going with this. Where they're trying to shift the Overton window to back where it was okay to publicly use slurs and call slurs, right? And you're seeing a surge of that specifically on platforms like Twitter, where they basically shut off moderation for one half of the aisle, right? You're starting to see more of that proliferate on those platforms where people consider freedom of speech is my ability to use slurs without social consequence. And so we're starting to see the Overton shift on that aspect. Okay, here's a working example right now. We're blowing up boats in the Caribbean arbitrarily. Just they're saying, "Hey, these guys are drug runners. Blow them up." And for whatever reason, we're just like, oh, "Okay, cool."
No due process,
no due process,
no facts, no nothing. But at the same time, though, I don't know.
But okay, so here's the thing. The thing that throws a wrinkle in that is when they did actually capture one of these boats that they had targeted, they brought the people in, and since they just had to release them, they had to send them back. So if they were doing something illegal on the boat that got blown up, you would think that they would be able to arrest them, right? They would have evidence enough to arrest them and put them in jail. They didn't. They sent them back. And so some of these other countries are saying, "Hey, man, that was a fishing boat. My uncle was on that boat. Right. My little cousin, my nephew and niece were on that boat that got blown up."
Right.
And so now you have countries that are saying that, and now we're coming back saying, "No, there's drug runners." The Overton window done shifted where, if you were doing that, it wasn't broadcast on the news. Presidents have always utilized that extrajudicial authority to basically essentially murder people on behalf of this country. I'm not saying that's right, but it definitely wasn't Yeah, man, we did that, man. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, we blew up that boat.
And we're gonna keep doing it.
We're gonna keep doing it. We went in international waters and committed a war crime. We never used to brag about that kind of stuff, but now the Overton window shifted. Like, yeah, man, that's cool. You know,
I mean, right, but I mean at the same time, the Overton window has not shifted so much where Antifa is considered a terrorist organization, which is not even an organization at all.
they're trying to
But
be.
hold on now,
Yep.
hold on now. The Ku Klux Klan has never been considered a terrorist organization.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna say that again. The Ku Klux Klan, one of the number one biggest terrorist organization to black people in America, has never been considered a terrorist organization.
Right.
Never been. So when people say that, well, these people are terrorists, I don't, I don't understand how they're terrorists. And if we know for a fact of how many, we don't even know how many people that these people have murdered
Mm-hmm.
in the name of America, in the name of Christianity. They have, even the FBI themselves have stated that the number one terrorist organization group in period is here.
Mm-hmm.
They are white, and
Well,
nobody gives a shit,
and
and nobody cares. And again, Proud Boys, they're not considered a terrorist organization. There's not the name a white organization that has been considered a terrorist organization here. Now, if you take them somewhere else, you bet your ass they'll be considered a terrorist organization and put the fuck down
and so that
with extreme prejudice.
and that's what we're saying though. The thing about
So
it is,
again, I mean, but that Overton window, all I'm saying is that the Overton window moves when it needs to move.
so and
But
this
it's
is my point.
based on the culture. But whose culture are we talking about?
It's based on the dominant party. Whoever controls the country determines what is considered acceptable. And
Okay,
that's so
but at the
that was the
same,
point. That was the point I was getting to, though. I'm
yeah,
in agreement with you. I'm actually in agreement with you.
I know that. But
Yeah,
I'm just saying, just
yeah.
in general, I'm giving this to the people that like what organizations are we talking about? What culture are we talking? You see what I'm saying? What culture? Whose cultural norms would this actually just be? Well, I mean, they're not considered that. I mean, with all the other issues going on, if you throwing around this name terrorists, how is it that they've never been considered a terrorist organization?
Right.
Never,
I'm a throw.
not one time.
So, as George Carlin said, how come their terrorists are terrorists, but our terrorists are freedom fighters? Because the Klan, in their original, like their original mission statement, because they used to be the Klan. You could the Ku Klux Klan was a registered nonprofit in this country, if I'm not mistaken, for a
Mm.
while. We can look it up. I'm pretty sure I've read that. Um, and so the idea that they always said we're fighting for the freedom and rights of white folks or whatnot, while they were actively conducting terror campaigns against black people. But they used freedom fighter language to say that they're freedom fighters. We say that a lot of times when when we send our mercenaries in, these paid mercenaries to these countries, these contractors, we say we're helping uphold the freedom of these countries. But then you talk to servicemen over there that have been servicemen and women that have stood next to these mercenaries, like, no, them dudes was killers, man. Them dudes were real degenerate, like, and so the Overton window is controlled by whoever the dominant group is. Because here's a perfect example of it. Open carry, right? Let's talk about open carry. Let's talk about states where you can open carry. And for those that don't know what open carry is where you carry a weapon in a holster in plain sight, everybody, right? And look at how open carry would hit depending on the context of the color of the person, right? Whereas Mr. White Militia dude can open carry as much as he wants, but this black dude open carrying, we're gonna call the cops as a threat. A Muslim dude open carrying, he must be about ready to commit some kind of crime.
Mm-hmm.
But he may be an American citizen just observing his Second Amendment rights. But it's very contextual on what's considered acceptable. And I think one thing that people don't understand is when you come from one of these groups, like a group that is marginalized, you know exactly what you can do and what you can't do in public. And you know that don't apply to anybody else who don't look like you.
Yeah, no, they've actually um during the 1920s. Hold on one second. Actually, yes, they did. They were actually considered a nonprofit organization. They got their 501c
Mm-hmm.
thing in the 1920s. It was actually founded the second clan, because remember the very first one happened in 1865,
Mm-hmm.
directly after slavery ended. Then that's when they came up or whatever. And then some years later, in the 1920s, the second clan um, got themselves 5013C. Hold on one second. They've actually been doing it for quite a while. Now during the 1990s, it got revoked.
Yeah.
In 1990, 1987, they actually lost their nonprofit status. Now again, this is 1987, not 1887, 1987,
Yeah.
for the lynching of Michael McDonald in Alabama because it bankrupted them.
So now let's ask, why weren't the Black Panthers eligible to be a 501c3 when they were actually founding after school programs to to feed kids, and they actually started the school breakfast program. You y'all can dispute me on it if you want. They actually started the pilot of that
Oh
school
no, they
breakfast
did.
program.
No, they did. Yeah, they did.
And they actually were doing stuff that impacted the community. They're teaching people how to be responsible gun owners and teaching people about their rights and stuff. They would never been allowed to be a 501c3.
No, not at all.
But the Ku Klux Klan, so
They were.
the Overton window, it depends. It's contextual. We're just talking about generalities right now. And so right now, we're starting to see a lurch towards the right in terms of, okay, so now some more what used to be fringe people in the right are now more mainstream. I'm seeing Nick Fuentes pop up. I see his name popping up more and more and more in right-wing political circles. This man is a neo-Nazi. He's a whole neo-Nazi. If you watch his show, he will say every slur that you can imagine. But now he's starting to drift over into he's starting to he's gone from the unthinkable to now he's more radical.
And then eventually to be acceptable, then sensible, then popular, then policy.
And now it's time to start. And so when we talk about this, you guys are in the power. You have the power to start pumping the brakes and pushing back on some of these more fringy people. Even if you are in a political, even if they are on your political side, more or less, you could start pushing back against the unthinkable people crossing over to the realm of acceptability, because it hurts everybody. I got a working example, and then I'm getting back into my outline. And so this morning, I am on the Twitter, right? Because I will comb stuff to look for things to talk about. There are two prominent Indian American conservatives. Vivek Ramaswamy, who ran for president. Do you remember him?
Yes.
And he built his platform he built a platform off of talking crazy to black folks and telling us, all kinds of other stuff from his perspective of what we was doing wrong and how we were failures and all this other stuff, right? And there's Dinesh D'Souza, who is kind of I don't want to say, I would say he would be the Indian equivalent of Tucker Carlson on the right? And so but a little bit less reputable. So anyway, Vivek Ramaswamy posted a picture of him and his two boys for Halloween, right? The slurs that were coming out off of this dude, and these were right wingers, they slurred the hell out of this man.
And who was it?
Vivek Ramaswamy. He ran for president. They slurred the hell out of this man. This is the same chucklehead that was he was running for president and he was doing an interview with Ann Coulter. She looked him dead in his face and said, "Yeah, you're great and everything. I would never vote for you because you're Indian."
So the Black Panther Party, if I'm not mistaken, they did actually apply for nonprofit and they were denied.
Yep. And so
they did. And the difference between now listen to this, the difference between the groups. The KKK is a Christian patriotic heritage government. Now the government labeled these people civic and fraternal. Legal status, often eligible for nonprofit until they were exposed. Now, the only way they were exposed is through a lynching. Now, Black Panther Party, self-declared, actually, excuse me, self-definition. The Christians, KKK is a Christian organization, patriotic and heritage. Black Panther Party self-defined themselves as revolutionary socialists and self-defense. Not self-offense, self-defense, which means that they're defending themselves.
Right.
So government label again. Now the government says this. This isn't what they say. The government says KKK is a civic and fraternal organization. And the Black Panther Party, the government says, is subversive and militant.
Yep.
Legal status. Often eligible for nonprofit until they were exposed. Legal status, denied nonprofit, targeted by COINTELPRO.
Right.
So again, that's the reason why the one got it, the other one did not.
Right.
And not only that, not only was the FBI used as a tool to undermine civil rights and radical black groups, the IRS was too. So they were all in cahoots of it, including freezing people's assets, harassing leaders, and criminalizing gatherings. But burning crosses in a person's fucking front yard, that doesn't do it. That's not going to get you investigated. Murdering people at your own beck and whim doesn't that apparently doesn't get the call to be investigated neither.
So it is contextual.
So, yeah, very much so.
So I'm watching it, and so they jumped all over. So old boy posted a picture of him and his kids, right? And all the racists jumped out. And Dinesh D'Souza, who has been really like, he said some of the crazy stuff about black people. They posted a tweet where he's talking about how black people have lower IQs and whatnot and all this other stuff. Like, he actually posted this. I thought it was made up until I went to his account. He gonna jump on there and try to get Vivek's defense and say, this is wrong. Now, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's like, if y'all keep doing this, y'all, we might have to, end up like he was talking about some of the conservative figures that kind of he saw as responsible for this dog pile on Vivek. He's like, we might have to divest from y'all. And they're like, okay, go ahead. So he don't entertain the racist fringes of the party when it suited his needs. But they always turn on you.
I'm gonna put it like this, though, bro. I think that there's certain individuals that are. I think that they'll say whatever they need to say, do whatever they need to do in order to get whatever they need to get. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: when Donald Trump was just Donald Trump, the investor, real estate mogul, that dude. And again, if you go back and you look at some of the videos that a lot of the upper class black dudes in what was this at in New York, they was always talking highly of dude, saying that like there was sometimes when he would show up, write checks for to help people and all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't involved in some felonious dick type stuff either. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that, but what I'm saying is that the Donald Trump that we see today is not the same, apparently not the same one that we saw or that I read about back in the day, because I know that he and Robert Kiyosaki, um, they wrote a book called "Why We Want You to Be Rich." It was something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a, on one hand it was Donald Trump talking, on the other hand it was Robert Kiyosaki. I learned more from Donald Trump's part than I did from Robert Kiyosaki's part.
Mm-hmm.
More, way more about life in general, about this, about that. I read a lot about it, and he was act like in his book. And again, I mean, I'm just saying it was really cool to sit down and read your boy's thoughts and this that, and the other. And one of the things that he talked about was like I could care less about and certain things, but if somebody calls me, I'll always call them back no matter what, because you have no idea where that call can land, can put you from here to there, and this. You, God dang it,
Mm-hmm.
stop.
You all right?
Yeah, my camera is all over, but um, but I was just kind of thinking about that, like, man, you know what I'm saying? So it almost looks like the guy that we see today is kind of like a caricature of something that didn't exist beforehand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because again, like you can fool people sometimes, but all the like really. So again, I mean, if he was, and I'm not saying that he didn't stiff people. I'm not saying that he didn't do a lot of other fuck shit. I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm just saying that people back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean before he became president, before he was just out just talking stuff and this that, and the other, whatever. He was messing with a bunch of different people,
Right.
like in general. Now again, he could have always felt a particular way. I mean that is very much possible. But I'm just saying, like all this other anti type shit or whatever, it just seems a bit far. It just seems too far left or too far right for the guy that I read about for all that time. You know what I'm saying?
I think for me, it comes from like this is me putting on the marketing brain. I think what we're seeing, because a lot of times really good salesmen are really good at being who they need to be in order to win the interaction. And I think you're just seeing that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's a real, like, I don't know. We talk about we need to find out who the real person is, who the real person is. I don't know if there is a real person outside of the salesman.
Mm,
I think that it's all salesmen, and he knows where his bread is buttered, and so that's who he's gonna pander to. I know, like Kiyosaki, the reason why Robert Kiyosaki hasn't really grown, like he has his empire or whatnot, but he's never really evolved past where he's been, is
right.
because he actually does have internal beliefs, and some of them are really terrible, but he does have a framework of ways that has driven his life. He invented that entire rich dad poor dad archetype and character and stuff like that narrative, and it's benefited him. But
Mhm.
he also has some things that he thinks are core beliefs. And if you really, and I know that you take things with a grain of salt, but I'm letting the crowd know, if you like Robert Kiyosaki, do not look at his social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't. I never have.
It's stuff that you won't like. If you're a
I
fan
mean,
of
I know that he's an avid Trump supporter.
yeah,
I mean, again, hell, they both wrote a book together.
yeah,
Or
but
whatever, like in general, yeah.
it's more than that. It's just him talking about Rip stiffing his employees and like kind of celebrating the idea of it. Like he's not a great guy. But I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and yeah, it had some great allegories in it. Um, you know, was it applicable? It depends. I mean, this is the thing I found out. I was watching this guy, one of the weightlifters I watch. And basically he said, he's like, here's the thing. You can give people all the basic information. He's like, because the basic shit works.
Hmm.
That's why it's the basic shit. It always works. So as long as you tell them the basics of a thing, they're going to have success if they duplicate it. if they implement the basics. He's like, but that's how people fool you, because they'll tell you the basics and then add a sprinkle of their own stuff on top of it. And now you think that they're innovating something when all they did was just tell you the basics. And he's talking about in the frame of reference of training for strength and stuff like that, which is true, but it also applies to other things. And so when I look at the Robert Kiyosaki, yeah, he tells you some very common sense things from an investor standpoint. These are basic stuff that you would learn reading, a lot of stuff that Warren Buffett recommended early on. So it's basic stuff. It works historically. But if you're looking for insights, I don't know. Anyway, that's just my aside on it. I think that Robert Kiyosaki, the reason why he isn't involved, because there's an element of him that's not the salesman where he's going to say whatever is required. Because when you will say whatever is required, when you say whatever is required, that means that you don't really have much of a moral anchor to anything. You don't really believe in anything. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just my take. And so when we talk about old boy in office, that's how I view him. I view him as an individual that will say literally anything. He'll say anything to win an interaction.
Okay.
And so I don't think he believes really in anything. I don't know. Even some of his books, most of his books are gold written. So we don't even know if that's him.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying. But
okay.
I think what you're saying is I think that's that's how I would view it. Now he could be this could be authentically him. I don't know. I view him as a salesman. So anyway, we're talking about the Overton window and what was socially acceptable and how contextual based it is. A lot of it depends on who's in charge, right? And so what's acceptable for one group of people, what's publicly acceptable to discuss for one group of people will be absolutely not publicly acceptable for other groups. It always depends on who's in charge.
Okay.
So we talked about it. We gave you some examples. Let's talk about exposure versus understanding. Familiarity of a concept is not the same thing as mastery of a concept.
Right.
Right. The examples we see, people talking about geopolitics off of a TikTok reel or a TikTok video. Their entire understanding of this geopolitical debate is boiled down to what somebody said on TikTok that they agreed with. Somebody watches a 14-minute YouTube video about nutrition, and now they're arguing with dietitians about stuff. A secretary of health that falls down the rabbit hole of a couple of conspiracies, and now they're expert about immunization and virality, virology and all kinds of other stuff in autism. That's mine. People reflect. This is one that they're throwing up. People repeat phrases like algorithm or inflation or late stage capitalism. They can't define any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
DEI is one of those buzzwords that people can't really define. What's that?
I have no idea.
Well, it just popped up on our screen. Let me see if I can fix it. There it goes. And so what we're saying is people will get super familiar with these terms and just kind of throw them around. And I feel like what happens is specifically is when we start playing these kind of games, people will assume that they know what something means, and then they'll start playing around with they'll start segmenting out the words. The one that blows my mind is when we talk about I heard when somebody was talking about neoconservatism, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about the neoconservative movement. And they say, well, I'll just do neoliberalism. Well, neoliberalism is not the opposite of neoconservatism. It's not.
Okay.
Neoliberalism is the parent that neoconservatism was born of. Right?
Gotcha.
And so they're not the same things, but people didn't have a real understanding of what these terms mean. And so they just say them.
Okay.
They just say it without really understanding it. And so social media has exposed us to new information, which is dope. I love the fact that more people know more about things than they did 20 years ago. But I think it gives us a cursory understanding of stuff without having an in-depth understanding of it. Mm-hmm. And so You have political debates with people that will sit there and talk about political part, like history of political parties and who's voted for what and what demographics and all this other stuff, not understanding that the US political system, the party system changes every 20 or 30 years. And the party, the current party, the current Democratic Party of now is not the same Democratic Party of 1996.
And so, like when they say that it was a Republican Party that freed the slaves, we're not talking about the same Republican Party as you're talking about.
Right.
Right. I mean, so if you say that it's changing every 20 years, then the Republican Party at that particular time is not the same as now. The Democratic Party is not the same as it was. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was, what was it? During the 1960s is when everything kind of switched around.
Started shifting. So you started
shifting like during the civil rights time, because black people started seeing, because if I'm not mistaken, black people were Republican before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they became Democrats because nobody actually messed with them over on the other side or whatever. So, right. So, no, I totally understand. I get that.
And there's so many nuances to it because there's so many different parties, small micro movements that happen within parties. Like even when you go in 30s and 40s, you talk about different political parties that black people were tied to, socialist parties, anti-socialist parties, and stuff like that. There were so many micro parties that played into it. The Free Silver Party was one of them. Like you start getting into the weeds of it, and you know that you're talking to somebody who has a cursory understanding of the political party system if they only talk about Democrats and Republicans, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to progressives and conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
Progressives, moderates, and conservatives. Like when we start talking about progressives and moderates and stuff like that, it changes the dynamic. So when we talk about the Republican Party where all the black people were Republicans, talking about a progressive Republican Party.
Right.
Well, now there's no such thing as that.
Hmm.
Because the Republican Party is defined by conservatism, right? And so essentially, fundamentally, these are different parties. We're trying to pretend like they're the same. And so, but that's confusing.
Hmm.
I mean, I think people hate nuance. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, after social media, I think people hate nuance because it's a nuanced argument.
Right.
And it requires you not to think in a straight line. It requires you to think, okay, well, yeah, this is true in this context, but in this context, this is kind of false. In this context, a little bit more false. In this context, is completely false. So,
right.
But I mean, we see it all the time. Fearless, you read more than most people. Like you read more in a year than most people have read in their entire lifetime.
Correct.
And so, when you are in that role, you are basically blitzing yourself with new ideas and different ways of thinking and different frames of thinking.
Correct.
And so you can read one book that states one thing and read a book that states something completely opposite to that thing that you read. And you have the bandwidth and depth of experience with all this and familiarity with all these concepts to understand, well, one doesn't negate the other one. They're just coming from different perspectives.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I just read, I think the book's out in the car or whatever. So, and again, the word that you just said was nuanced. One of the books that I read, I think that I told you about it before, was this one here, the White Burgers and Black Cash, Fast Food from Black Exclusion to Exploitation. And again, you don't think that something like White Castle would have deep racist freaking views on anything, right? And you think the same exact thing about KFC. You think the same thing about McDonald's. You'd say the same thing about Burger King. You'd say the same thing about majority of the restaurants that you see out there today that are in these walkable neighborhoods. And you're like, oh man, they always looking out for us. If it's like, dude, if you only knew. And again, I mean, Donna Millie's is a focal point here in Omaha, but they didn't sell to black people either. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that their food's not still absolutely delish because it is. But again, I'm also not going to hold you to something that happened 30, 40. I'm not going to say 30. I'm going to say, however, many years ago. It's almost like when I think about like Tesla, for instance. I have a Tesla.
Uh-huh.
One of I've had a lot of cars. Tesla is my favorite car by far. Favorite car by far. But this is what I will tell you. People say that, well, I don't want a Tesla because I don't want to support Elon. Cool, you don't have to support Elon. But I want you to think like this. Elon, the one thing if I could say something to him, it would be, bro, where's my camera? My camera's right here. Elon, shut the fuck up and just build my car. Stop talking.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fix your own country. So don't try to fix this one. Right? Yeah. So that's what I would tell you, sir. Respectfully speaking, make my car and keep your mouth shut. Okay? So going back to us, you don't think that Henry Ford felt the same way about black people?
He was a Nazi supporter. Oh, he's big.
You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, it's like, so let's not act like Elon's the first person to be like this. Let's not act like Donald Trump is the first person or the first president to be a piece of shit. Let's not act like that. Let's not act like he's the worst of the worst. No, there's other ones.
We got Andrew Jackson out here, bro. Like, Andrew Jackson was a terrible. And I'm gonna throw this out here. You mentioned White Castle.
What about Johnson? What about John? He was just as bad too.
Yeah.
He was the one after slavery ended. He repealed everything that Lincoln said.
Yeah.
So all that reparations that we were supposed to get, he's the one who made sure that we didn't get it. He's the one who made sure that all them white dudes got their land back, and then they got reparations. So don't fucking sit there and act like you've done us a fucking favor, because you haven't. Stop that shit.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson was a pretty terrible person.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
Well, and I'm gonna say this about White Castle. White Castle tastes racist. Like, it does. White Castle tastes racist. I remember going out to visit. We went out to Chicago to visit one of my aunts. It's actually one of my mom's cousins.
Oh my gosh!
It's one of my mom's cousins, but she's she was an aunt to me, and she's like, "I'm gonna take y'all out to White Castle." We excited, like I'm little. I didn't know.
Oh man, you said it tastes right.
Man, she took us out to White Castle to get a burger. I bit into it and flashed back to Selma. I wasn't even there.
Yeah, right. I wasn't even there.
I flashed back to Selma getting sprayed with fire hose.
Yep. Arms up, getting whipped.
Because
what's your name, Toby?
It tasted like oppression. White Castle tastes.
Oh my god!
I do not understand y'all, and like I'm talking to y'all who live where White Castle is. I don't understand y'all. I don't understand how y'all taste buds function.
I get it.
I don't get it.
I understand. You want to know why?
Why?
Because they're small, they're adorable, they're like little sliders.
Yeah.
When they give you the fries and you get the drink, and then like it's like you get like damn near 20 of the motherfuckers, and you have to sit there and you eat them. Now, personally, now that you say that, I did taste a bit of bigotry,
right?
And when you eat them,
and I'm big about. I have a thing about not. What my daughter used to say is, don't yuck somebody else's yum. Like, if you like it, you like it. I don't really make fun of it. I'm saying my experience with White Castle was not. It made me never want to go to them again. It made me never want to seek them out. And I was like 12 years old, and it was very seared in my memory when I bit into them. Like.
Wow, like yeah,
like, and I had to drive by. Like, it was my first time driving by a functioning steel plant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you've ever been where you've had to drive by a functioning steel plant and smell pure sulfur in the air,
yeah.
So that colored my journey with it, and then going to White Castle and me being excited and biting into like a pure onion, like a onion.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's just my take. It tasted racist.
That's funny.
That's my White Castle tasted racist.
Tasted racist.
So, anyway, but what we're talking about is people are online utilizing, and I talked about earlier where they're using therapeutic terms just for the hell of it. You know, we're talking about, well, I mean, it sounds like you have depression or what? Oh, well, how did you make that assessment? How did you diagnose this person? Well, I didn't. So maybe you shouldn't say that.
Right.
But people are so familiar, like this language is so ubiquitous that it crosses over into that pop psychology stuff, right? And so, like I said, um, late stage capitalism. People say that all the time. They don't. They don't.
What is it called? Late what?
Late stage capitalism.
Late stage
Late,
capitalism?
late stage capitalism.
Okay, what is that?
Well, when people utilize it, they're talking about basically a functional failure of an institution, and people will just say that that's late stage capitalism.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna pull up the real definition.
Please do. And then also tell me where you got it from too.
So this is, I don't want to just use the AI overview
Correct.
because, well, and here's the thing. It's kind of a pop culture term. Okay. So let's talk about where it comes, because I'm trying to figure out the etymology of it first.
Okay.
But late capitalism, the concept of late capitalism was first used in 1925 by German sociologist Werner Sombart to describe the new capitalist order emerging out of World War One. Okay, and so it's a lot of Marxism. I don't sit there and argue Marx with people because Marx was problematic and weird racist in his own way. Paul Krugman has done the late stage capitalism. There's an entire academic framework surrounding late stage capitalism, right? When people say it, they aren't invoking that academic framework. They're saying this thing is inconvenient to me now and it makes no sense, so it's late stage capitalism. Okay? They're not looking at the academic framework. They're not using in the academic term. They're talking about a personal collapse or something not going right, a capitalist endeavor not going right and inconveniencing or a minute or taking advantage of people.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to find it. So guys, if you're watching now, I'm trying to find an academic version of it and then a pop culture version of it.
Okay. And hold on. What is it called again?
Late stage capitalism. And they say late stage capitalism is late capitalism. Is post-capitalism, and so there's an entire academic framework around these terms, is what I'm saying, guys. And people utilize these words like it's just, well, the fact that Netflix keeps raising the price on things and their selection of shows and movies is going downhill.
Oh, matter of fact, if you look at like soda, for instance.
Yep.
If you look at like soda pop, for instance, the cans keep getting smaller and the prices keep going up.
Yep. So a couple of the things is commodification. It suggests that under late capitalism, everything, including all aspects of life like art, social issues, become a commodity to be bought and sold for profit. Work exploitation, consumerism, globalization, dominance of multinational corporations, increasing wealth, equity, and income. These are the characteristics of people. These are the things that people, when people say it, they are kind of mentioning this, saying it kind of in the same frame, but it's not the academic application of it. Okay. And so they're familiar with the term without having the full understanding or the full contextual understanding of what it means. It goes the same thing with diversion, equity, and inclusion, right? I keep telling people don't believe me. Veterans work programs are DEI initiatives. Putting Braille on the elevator buttons is a DEI initiative. Having a wheelchair ramp it falls under that blanket of a DEI initiative, even though it falls under the ACA. Not the ACA, is the ADA. It falls under the ADA. It's still considered a DEI initiative, right? But then also, if you're hard of hearing, having accommodations at work so that you aren't left out is an inclusion part of it. And
Right.
so people, but
And I also, and not to interrupt you, but that's the part that people consistently keep getting um, misconstrued. I think when we're talking about race, we're
yes,
not talking about diversity, equity. We're talking about inclusion, to include other people in your stuff. That's all it is.
right.
And so when we're talking about that, so when they keep talking about airline pilots, they're not saying that oh, we need to bring in people that are fucking stupid. We're saying that we need to open this up to everybody as opposed to just these individuals right here. Because how about when if this guy over here scored the top of his class, but you're not even looking at his application.
Lowering the threshold, because
Whatever.
I've done it.
Right.
I've done like so one of the things is when I was like in eighth grade, I was in aeronautics. Like I took an aeronautics class, and so that was supposed to be my pathway. Is either going to be engineering or aeronautics. Um, and so as part of that, my mom she worked like a part-time job an entire summer so that she could put me in this young pilots program where they worked with kids and taught them the basics of flying a single prop Cessna or whatnot. And
Mhm.
so by the time I was 14, I had flown a plane. You know what I'm saying? To be a commercial pilot is prohibitively expensive. To
Really?
98%, 98%, and I'm just throwing out a number here, so don't quote me on this, but it's probably inaccessible to about 98% of people walking around right now. Not because they don't have the capability or capacity. It costs well over 150, $200,000 just to get in the position where you might be considered for a commercial pilot's license. The
Really?
testing, all the stuff you have to do, all the classes you got to take, all the certification, everything, it is obscenely expensive. And in a country
At,
where wealth
at your own cost?
at your own cost,
Really?
in a country where wealth flows up to a specific small segment of a demographic, that's how you get mostly white pilots because it's so expensive. Mostly white commercial pilots. Plus, to even sit in a commercial pilot seat, the background checks have to come back crystal clear, squeaky clean. Like parking violations, like speeding tickets could derail you. And so there's all kinds of things that you have to do. So if you see a black pilot, they have gone through a level, a black commercial pilot, they have gone through a level of filtering that you will never ever experience. But it's cost prohibitive. And so the DEI initiative behind that is make these programs more accessible to a wider group of qualified applicants.
So again, when we talk about diversity, equity, again, it's the equity and inclusion
Yeah.
part. So it's not that hey, we just need somebody black. It's like no, we have to include a few other people as well, or whatever. So like, dude, like everything in here is a beige community.
Mm-hmm.
You trying to tell me that we can't find nobody else? We can't find women. We can't find a little black dude over there who's been trying to do this for however long. So again, I think that that's the part that people consistently miss.
Right.
That's the part that we're asking for the most part is to be included. I don't give a shit if it's diverse. Like I'm here, so it's not like they're lowering their standards
No,
for anything.
there's
Like
casting a bigger net.
they're just casting a bigger net, which is better for everybody. It's not better for just one or two people. I mean, like I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Mhm.
And that dude, he was a eugenicist within himself, which is crazy as shit that we teach how to teach this guy stuff though.
Mhm.
Anyway, so one of the things that I started to understand is that social contract that we all sign when you were born here. Again, I'm a philosopher at heart. I'm very pragmatic. So
Mhm.
I'm always looking at it from the standpoint of why don't you give us what we need and then you can fuck off,
Right.
right? Like give us what we need So y'all can go do your thing. And the other thing I was telling, I think we were talking about this before, is that government should be boring. It should be extremely boring. I should not know all the stuff that y'all doing. I should be able to see it.
Right.
Don't tell me. I should be able to see it. I should be able to see that each and every human being in America has free health care, has free dental, has free vision. I should be able to see that. I should be able to see that, hey, I'm not saying that there's not private institutional colleges, but we also have ones that are this over here. So if you want to get a bachelor's in this over here, we got this school over here. Again, you don't pay for it because you're already paying for it with your taxes. So for me, like that should be something that should just be given to the American people because we're already paying for it. So when I was talking to a friend of mine, she's like, no. But she said, if you want to go to a 2-year college, that we all put into, go right ahead. She's like, I don't want to pay for somebody else's furthering their college. I'm like, again, you keep looking at this from an individualistic
Mm-hmm.
standpoint. And I said, unfortunately, that's the American way at this present moment in time because there ain't shit united with us. If you were to look at this as a community type of thing, as a country type thing, where we build together,
Mm-hmm.
then everybody will have access to go to college. Now, not everybody's going to have access to go to Harvard, Yale, Cambridge, shit like that. And I get that. Cool. If you have the money to pay for it, pay for it. But what book was I reading? What book was I just reading when they were talking about China and how and why China has developed how they have and what they have? And it's because when they get their money, their GDP goes back into China. Everything they do goes back into their country.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Everything they do. So think about that. When we talk about money bouncing, bounce, 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 and then it leaves their community. And they were talking about black people, like our thing doesn't even bounce a full day before it's off in somebody else's hands. And China, they try to keep a lot of their money in house and they build their infrastructure from there. Now, here's the thing. I want to say this. They do not have the same infrastructure as we do here in America. What I mean by that is that their labor laws are absolutely horrendous, right? Because there's more of them than there is us. They got 1 billion people. We got 300 million, somewhere around there. All I'm saying is that with all the money that we put towards all of these different things or whatever, why can we not build up our country together? That's because of harsh pizza, because it's expensive and a complete waste. They get no marketable skills from it.
Let me
Why
jump
can
into
we
this
pay
one.
for it? Go
Let me
ahead.
jump into this one. Okay, a couple of things real quick. One, I know that and you can fact check this, but I know specifically in California, college used to be free up until Reagan came into office, and he benefited from the free college system until they put in the tuition thing. So it used to be that everybody could access college when colleges were segregated. It was free, but as they desegregated colleges, it started costing money. Now, here's what I'll say like this. When you think in a straight line, and I'm answering Liberty Twitcher. So you're talking to two business owners, right? Um, if you are a straight line thinker, the idea of going to college is you're on a career track. You go to college and it's a career track, right? That hasn't been the case in almost 50 years. What going to college actually does is it kind of determines whether, and corporations base whether you can get your degree. It's more or less, do you have the capacity and bandwidth to do something that's difficult for an extended period of time? Do you have a level of commitment to it? That's one. Two, there's other aspects of college that you go. So people say, well, why would you get an art degree? Like they'll say go to school for art degree is a waste of time, until you actually look at the opportunities for people that have art degrees. And there are 6-figure, 7-figure jobs in there. Set designers, people that that design containers. Those are art degree majors, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to get the degree and then apply the education.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not a waste of time, it's educating yourself. No education is a waste of time. It's how you apply the education after the fact. That's one. I know that there's been a kind of an assault on the concept of the college student and college and indoctrination, all this other stuff. College is supposed to reframe your mind. It's supposed to expand how you think because you're now interacting with people who are different than you, who come from different walks of life. So it's supposed to, if you go into college and come out the exact same person, then what did you go for the education for?
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't had your mind expanded in any forcibly expanded in one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So I don't think so the answer, why should we pay for it? Imagine an entire population where college is where advanced education is readily accessible to anybody that wants it at any point in time without any cost considerations. Where you raise the basic general knowledge of the entire population of the country, you elevate it. What outcomes do you think come from that? You get better politicians, you get better businesses, you get better institutions. All of that stuff comes from having an educated group of people. Mm-hmm. We have a big pool of potential educated people, as opposed to a narrow group of educated people. Because when you have a narrow group of educated people who have access, you create oligarchy. These are my takes. You don't have to agree with me. You know what I'm saying? This is real honest. You ain't got to agree with me. But when you have a narrow group of when you make education exclusive to specific people, you're setting the stage up for an oligarchy. That's my take. So why should we pay for it? We pay for it because it's a public investment into enriching everybody's life, not just the people who have money and access. Mm-hmm. And so you also support continual lower standards. Why should we pay? Who's supported? Who's done that? Who's done that?
Yeah, I would love to know that. I don't understand. Like, who's continuously lowering of standards?
Who's done that? I don't know if you watched the story. I told you I've done the young pilots program. I know exactly what it takes to be in the seat of a commercial pilot. Nobody is lowering the expectation for that, if that's the concept we're talking about.
Right. I mean, so Liberty Twitcher, I get what you're saying. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, my guy. I mean, it almost kind of seems like cherry picking a little bit. What I'm talking about is that, from the standpoint that I'm coming from, is that we get exactly what we pay for. That's all I'm saying. And what I'm saying is, and here's the other thing. It's like, you're like, well, why should I pay for somebody else's medical bills if they're blah 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 blah? What I'm saying is that we're already paying for it and we're not getting shit for it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Hold on. I love this. Test scores have gone down because you guys supported leaders who, for example, changed math in California so that a student's life experience can be taken into account when grading him or her. So again, you're kind of bouncing all over, whatever. So let's kind of stay on track with one thing. If you want to do a whole blast thing or whatever, that's cute and all, but that's kind of like that one-sided type of thing. If we're gonna do that, I would rather just not say nothing. So let's kind of shift,
because you're saying
right, because you don't. First off, bro, you don't know what I've voted for at all. And again, I'm the wrong person to be going up against when it comes to literacy and this and the other, because I love this stuff. Like, I read for fucking fun. See all them books behind me? Like, yeah, okay, so right. So I would stop making an assumption about me, because that's not where I am at all. There's certain things I'm very liberal on, but there's other things I'm very conservative with. Very. Or whatever. So when it comes to bettering ourselves as a community, I am very liberal with that. Very. Because I can't move if you don't move. Mm-hmm. Period. So for that, I am. Now, when I talk about moving together as a people, that might seem liberal, but to me, that's very conservative because I can't move without you. Whether you're on the right or the left, we need each other. Period. I don't care who you voted for. And 90% of the stuff I was saying before was actually for Trump. If you paid attention to anything that I'd said, because I'd actually read majority of the guy's books and I listened to other people who had actually talked about him years before he became president. So, like, again, I'm the wrong person
So
to assume one thing or the other. I might sound very liberal when I talk about certain things, but then there's certain conservative type of things that I do kind of live by and that I work on myself or whatever. Um
if
but yeah, I'm not one way or the other. If anything, I'm more like I'm practical. If that's a if that's the thing, I'm very practical because with all the money that we spend on everything else, like all the money that we give, that and I say we, I didn't vote for that shit, but
mhm.
we're giving all this money to everything and everybody else around us instead of fixing America.
Well, I
That
want to.
and that is that should be the biggest fucking problem that we all face. That when we send our stuff everywhere else, when we could care less about when we could care less about our farmers, when we could care less of that this guy just became a multi-billionaire and just told his people, told his fucking employees to go get on fucking welfare, and the same fucking government is trying to shut the shit off. What the fuck do you do then?
Okay,
So like, no, we're not doing that.
so
Let's not do that.
let me throw this in here. We talk about the lowering of standards, right? If you want to know what lowered standards, and you talk to educators, you talk to people that actually are in the trenches, the universal lowering of standards came with No Child Left Behind. Because
Yes,
what happened
under a Republican,
under Republican, what
under
happened
a Republican.
we took out the ability, because you talk to teachers now, they can't teach context clues. They can't teach things that are signs of
No,
emotional intelligence. They have to teach the test. And they're stuck to this framework where these kids have to pass these standardized tests and nothing else matters.
or what happens if they don't pass it?
Yeah. Nothing else
What
matters.
happens?
They'll
What
get
happens?
fired. Teachers get fired.
They lose their fucking funding.
They lose funding. And so and
That's
so
what happens.
and so when we talk about the lowering of standards, focusing everything on standardized testing lowered standards in ways that in ways that people don't really conceptualize, because we've created an entire generation of children who have no capacity to think critically. They don't understand context clues. They know how to read, they don't know how to comprehend, because part of reading comprehension is actually having a decision making part of your brain to say, okay, so these are the words that I read, what do they mean in the context of my life? When we remove that from schools and remove teachers' ability to challenge kids outside of tests, outside of standardized tests, we injured an entire group of children coming up. I'm saying that to say this. So when I was college bound, now you're talking to, residential smarty pants, black kid, neurodivergent, all gifted classes my entire career, academic. First time I sat down, took the ACT, I got a 17. Now, I had straight A's. I was in advanced placement courses, everything. Nobody handled me shit. I got a 17. I went back and took a course that actually showed me how to interpret the ACT and how to visualize, like, okay, the science questions are actually just reading comprehension questions. So you don't need to bring in specific knowledge and stuff. All you got to do is the answer is in the question. I took a course that showed me how to do that, turned around and got like a 27. Easy. Because I actually had somebody sit down and break down some of the contextual stuff. You're talking about somebody who tested out of most of my freshman classes in 11th grade. My freshman classes for college. I tested out all that stuff. There are cultural markers that can determine your test score.
Right. So, but I also like what you just said there, and I 100% agree with you, Liberty. when you said that half of the kids can't even tell you the difference between there, and then they are, or whatever. Not, and let me tell you something very funny, right?
Mhm.
I at this present moment in time, I have no college degrees whatsoever. I've never even been to an actual college for any of this stuff, but I still have all these books because I love to read. Like I don't like reading. I fucking love to read. When I was in my early 20s, you know the one thing that I did, Liberty Twitcher, I went to a Barnes and Nobles, and because I started to understand that I did not understand where commas go, where semicolons were, I didn't understand there, and they are. I didn't understand the concept of them. Like I got it, but I didn't get it.
Mhm.
Two, and two, rain and rain. So I started buying those type of books. I think I have them over on the other side. Let me show you. Over here. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Nope, sorry. Look at me. Stop. Okay, shut it off. So if you look over here, that's where I have all the my books with the anything that comes to like reading. Sorry, give me a sec.
Mhm.
Anything that pertains to reading or something like that too. Yes, I very much autodidact.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I also understand that there's shit that I don't know. So I try my and that's also the reason why I read so many other types of books or whatever, because I don't know. I know what I know, but I also don't know what I don't know. So I try to read as much as I possibly can. So the one thing that I started to understand was like my son is 13 years old. He's in the eighth grade and he has an IEP, which is an individual education plan, because he has a learning disability. Right. He's about 2 grades behind. Now eventually he will catch up, but it still takes time. You want to know the reason why I trip on it, but I don't really trip too much? Because when I graduated from high school in 1998, and they tell you how old I am, right?
Mhm.
My grades were shit. I don't think I don't I liked reading for the most part, but then I stopped because I thought it was nerdy. I thought it was stupid, blah blah blah, whatever. But when I hit 21, 22 years old, I got this thirst for knowledge that I could not stop. It was like, have you ever watched Brokeback Mountain? And homeboy had his hand on his hip and was like, I can't quit you. That's how I feel about education. I can't quit it. I love it. So the thing that I teach my son, or I tell my son, is this: you may not get this now, but later on it'll make sense.
Mhm.
Our job right now is to figure out your learning style. I don't give a fuck how shitty your grades are at this point. We need to understand how you learn. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like I like, bro, I don't like education. I fucking love it. I live for it. So when I see my son's grades, shit, the first person that I'm going to is the teacher, because I'm like, how is his grade so bad? And then they told me today, they said, well, we want to test him again. Does he understand the material? If he doesn't understand the material, you can test him all you want. You still gonna keep getting the same problem, right? So how about we work together to figure out how he learns, not just fucking remembers, but how does he learn so he can take this information to life? We are paying what we get. This shit. Listen, I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you some more of my other stuff on this.
Mhm.
Since you brought it up, so I'm gonna go ahead. I don't think I find it a waste of fucking time and resources for our children to be in school for 7 hours a fucking day, for 5 days a week, and my baby comes home and doesn't learn shit. I find that a grave injustice. A grave injustice.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? I find that a grave injustice. So again, I mean, like, so when it comes to education, like I'm a huge, avid, staunch report. Like I fucking love education. in every way. But you're not gonna tell me that he's there for if he's late 5 minutes, you mark him tardy. 5 minutes, you mark him tardy. But he can be there for 7 hours a day and not learn shit, and that's okay though. So like, no, no, fuck them.
And so
That's how I look at that. And
I'm
matter
gonna
of fact, hold on 1 second. Where's my paper? Where's my paper? I have a little piece of paper I was writing last night on my little to-dos list. You know what I have on it? Start looking into homeschooling. I was just writing that shit last night. I can even show you on my thing. 1 second. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pull it up right quick because I was just looking into it because I'm so sick and tired of my kid sitting there feeling discouraged because he's not understanding. I'm like, well, honey, do you understand this concept here or that concept there? No, Dad, I don't get it. Did you tell? And I know that he told them because I've told him, like, hey, teach it to me and I'll teach it to him. You know what they told me? And I shit you not. I'm not exaggerating. They said, go to Khan Academy or go to YouTube and they'll explain it. I'm like, you didn't tell my fucking kid that. Like, you see what I'm saying? If I'm asking you to teach me so I can teach him, that means that I know my learning style. You see what I'm saying? So like, no, I mean, so again, I'm gonna get off my little soapbox now. But when it comes to fucking education, like I am a staunch proponent for that shit. But I will also call you out if you're fucking lazy.
So
and some of these teachers, I for some of y'all, I am so sorry, but the rest of y'all, you ain't shit. You should go get a job doing something else.
And so I'll take, I guess it might be the other,
respectfully speaking,
the other position on it.
And then the other side of that, fuck you.
That's so for me, I am a public education kid. Came up public education. Went to a school in the historically black neighborhood of my city. It was also at the time, it was one of the top 17 schools in the country. In that school, in high school, by the time I walked out of high school, I had the ability to walk into pretty much any college program with 4 years of AutoCAD and a full portfolio of houses and stuff I had drawn. I had some advanced engineering. Of course, I had the aeronautic stuff and things along those lines. And so my public education journey was the one thing that kept me out of the track was I had ADHD. My mom never got me she had me diagnosed, but it wasn't official on the school records because the official school records would track me into remedial courses. And that would have colored my whole experience. Both of my kids are public school educated. We've bumped heads with teachers, but they go to a great school. They get opportunities that I never experienced in their public school environment. And so, yeah, we've had issues with teachers. We've had issues having to address teacher behavior, but our experience has been different just because of the context of the school that we're in and the school system we're in. I worked in juvenile probation. I had school administrators that were absolutely lazy, terrible, did not care about the kids, and I addressed that as such. What I'm saying is, to Liberty Twitcher's point, I do think when we do throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times when we just focus on like test scores and grammatic stuff. Like I've met people that are a lot older than me that don't know the difference between there, and there. I've met people that are older than me that don't know the difference between yours and yours.
You're right. Yes.
And so I don't think that's a byproduct of the school system. I think that's a byproduct of applying the education that you've learned.
Right, correct. And then not only that though, but I would also say to Liberty Twitcher, first and foremost, my guy, I don't know who, male or female, whatever you are, I appreciate you coming on and just be talking because it gives us, because otherwise me and Brian is gonna go back because we usually Gender fluid. All right, I'm with it.
Mhm,
Um, Brian and I, we're gonna go back and just we'll usually agree with each other and then
mhm,
whatever. But you bring about that other side that's like, oh, okay, hold on. That I have to actually dig in and say, okay, let me break these things down step by step. And I fucking love that and I appreciate that.
mhm.
Whether we agree or not, I respect your ability to say it. I respect your right to say it. And I want you to keep coming with that shit. Like, so I'm not one of the type of people that just because we disagree, I don't want to talk to you no more. Fuck that. I want to keep talking because then again, I don't necessarily need you to see things from my standpoint, from my point of view. I'm one of my best friends or whatever. We totally disagree on the government paying for all of our stuff because they kind of think the same way that you do. But from the standpoint as a collectiveness, understanding that our country spends all this money outside of this country, we just gave what 200 and how much whatever billions of dollars.
20 billion,
Uh, I thought it was 50, either 20 or
something like that.
50 billion dollars to a whole nother fucking country. And we cut off our own people right here.
Well,
But we've been doing that though, in general. So all I'm saying is that all this money that we're spending on everything else is shit that we could be spending right here. And then the other fact that you have mentioned before about our food. Like, why would I spend more? Why would I put into a pot where people are abusing it and getting fat as fuck and this, that, and the other? Bro, they're doing shit to our food. They're doing shit to our fucking bro. They're fucking killing us.
well,
I
and
mean, and that's the reason why these kids can go out and be playing all day long. I'm 46 years old. I know when I was a kid, when we used to go out, man, we used to be out all day. Man, if you were fat over summer, you're gonna be thin when school come back in, right? But the one thing I started reading about a lot of is all the shit that they're putting in our food is fucking with our DNA and our systems in general. My son is a big fucking kid. He could be out running all day long. We've had every test done, and he's still big as shit. Here's the thing: 13 years old, never lost his baby fat. I've taken him to every that I could afford, which is my money kind of long, Brian, to tell you.
mhm.
I've taken my son to all kinds of different specialists to figure out what's going on. And they still can't figure it. It's like, well, but he's shooting up through the roof. You see what I'm saying? So I'm, I'm just saying, like, so it's not the additive, it's the carbs and sugars, and that's it. I mean, and possibly, but I know that all the shit that they're doing to our food. I was just at my doctor's appointment. Unlike some people, I actually go to my doctor's every 3 months, mainly because I'm type 2 diabetic. So I have to go, but I do choose to go. Um, yeah, hey, you know what, man, you
But
might get, and again, I, 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 I know what you're saying. No sugars, no fruits, no that. That is very little fruit. Again, but I mean, bro, having a 13-year-old
yeah,
just to cut all of
and
that. I mean, go ahead.
from a dietary standpoint, what works for one person doesn't work for another person, and so that's why you go to the doctor
Correct, and
to
that's why we
determine.
went.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and and I can tell you, like, you're talking to somebody. I mean, my college career, I wasn't playing football in college. I was too short. Like, I was too short to play the position I had been playing. But I would always lift in the gym with a lot of the football players stuff. I could lift with them
oh,
really
okay.
easily. And so we were eating. We would go in before energy
Okay.
drinks, take a shot of black coffee, and eat a handful of gummy bears, and go lift for hours. Okay. And so that worked for us. And to be honest with you, a lot of these super fit people have some of the most insanely unhealthy diets that you could even imagine, that you could even fathom. That's one. But to your point, so when we talk about the collectivism, like we do, I do have a framework of evidence that shows that that government investment in in the public good actually raises all ships of the people that you intend to raise. If you look at the explosion of the American middle class post World War II, the exclusion of black folks, because we were not included in this. We are absolutely legally cut out of a lot of these programs that benefited the baseline middle class, including the GI Bill. I have relatives and stuff where their GI Bill, they weren't allowed to access aspects of the GI Bill because of segregation, and so things that were available to their counterparts they had no access to at all. Okay. The public investment in the American middle class in terms of public education, in terms of post-secondary education, in terms of job education, in terms of agricultural education, that absolutely exploded the American middle class. That's why boomers have all the resources, because they're children of that government investment in all aspects of improving American life by educating as many human beings as possible. And we're not saying that there weren't tradespeople. You're still going to have tradespeople, no matter how educated people are. Some people like to work with their hands. That's going to happen. You're not going to see a shortage of people just because we are making education available to everybody. What happens is you're educating this plumber or this bricklayer to have to pursue their MBA so that they can hire other bricklayers and manage their workforce after they stack their money. And so when America actually invested in the white middle class, it exploded. And I'm talking in racial terms because that's how it did play out. Because people like Fearless and I weren't availed to that. We would not have been, that would not have been an option for us. But when America did invest in the white middle class, it exploded and raised the quality of life for everybody. Unions are the reason why we have weekends right now.
Yeah. And 40-hour work weeks.
And 40-hour work weeks. And the reason why your 10-year-old can't be shipped off to a factory in most states now, and unless you're in Arkansas, and your 10-year-old can do overnights at McDonald's.
Is that really a thing?
That's the thing.
That's the thing. Not seriously.
They're letting kids. They've had a couple of McDonald's, I believe, in Arkansas got busted for having children working and children being there, and actually doing work. It's egregious. But what I'm saying is all this. What I'm saying, I don't necessarily believe that the individual approach is going to bear fruit, where everybody's responsible for their own education. I do believe that you should be able to determine what education you pursue, but I do think it should be available to everybody. You should have the resources to, if you desire to pursue college, you can pursue college. Again, I came into college as Mr. Smarty Pants, aced all my classes, walked through grade school, junior high, high school. College kicked my ass. Meanwhile, I had friends and stuff that high school was not their thing, and they excelled in college.
Okay.
They graduated before I did. So that's not a barometer to me that how well they did on this test or that test, where some of them barely made it, but once they got into college, they excelled. For me, I never had to really study until I got to college. And so when I got to college, I had to learn how, I not only had to learn the course material, but I had to learn how to study it.
Right.
So I don't think we need to I think the idea that college is a trade school needs to go away. It's not. I don't think degrees necessarily.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I don't think degrees should necessarily determine, like, there are professional degrees, of course, like you go to college and you go to medical school, or you go to college and go to law school or whatever. But I don't think the way we phrase it to our kids should be, well, you're going to college so that you can go off and do X, Y, and Z. I think you should be able to go to college, study whatever you want to, and then it's on you, because that's the game anyway. When I was running my programs for kids, I was a bachelor level person managing doctoral candidates.
I hold on one second. Liberty Twitcher, I totally understand that. I 100% understand that. Yes, I get that.
But
I totally get it.
who's doing that though? I need to show me an example of where people are just. I understand because there are kids that are coasting through life. They're not coasting through life. The rich kids are. The rich kids are. Poor kids don't have the option to do that. Where
I'm guessing, and again, maybe I'm just throwing it out there, but struggle is good. Don't let them coast and get to the real world and find out that without any life skills or anything else. No, that's kind of what I'm saying.
we have a whole we have a whole elected official in this state who has never faced a day of struggle in their life, and the reason why is because they had the money.
Hold on, now. What do you mean by struggle?
I'm talking about what we consider a typical struggle, where you have to go out as an adult and find a job, and all that other stuff, where you don't have daddy's money to fall back on. You know what I'm saying? I fought for everything that I've ever earned in this life. But we have people out there, they'll never have to struggle in the way that they'll never, ever experience the traditional struggle that a person that doesn't have the resources will.
No, and you're right about that. But here's the thing, and unfortunately, the bibliophile here, I've read so many different books about the ultra rich that it is absolutely crazy. But the one thing I remember, I read this book. It was called something of the 1%. Let me get it to you right quick. Let me find it. It was by a lady named, and I never ever remember people's names, but her name is Brooke Harrington. And hold on one second. Let me find her. Hold on. Brooke Harrington, books. Here it is right here. She wrote this book. And I'm telling you, it was one of the best books that I've read. Hold on. Can you see what I'm looking at? No, you cannot. Let me show you. She wrote this book called, can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me try to find a different, hold on. Let me see. All right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this book right here, Capital Without Borders, Wealth Managers in the 1%. This book was so good. It broke down it broke down a lot. And when you think that rich people are like, oh, they think differently, no, they don't. A lot of these people that have a lot of money, they only got their money through somebody passing on or this and the other. I know somebody right now who is about to become a multi-million. She's about to be a millionaire next year because somebody in her family passed on, and that's literally what it is for her, right? So yeah, so it's this book right here, Capitals Without Borders, and they talk about basically following the money, about all these 18 most popular tax havens in the world, interviewing practitioners to understand how they help their high net worth clients avoid taxes, collectors, and disgruntled heirs. So again, they may not have the same struggles financially and through resources and opportunity as we do, but I assure you, my guy, they do have problems.
Well, I'm not saying I never said
they very much do.
I'm not saying they don't have
that. My Liberty Twitcher, I'm telling you, it's a good book. Very good book. And the reason why I bought this book is because before I bought it, I was always asking myself, because people would always say, I need to get a passport so I can start traveling. And I would always be like, do you really need a passport to travel? And that was just kind of like one of those things that just kind of stuck in my head for years. So I see this book, I find this book, I'm like, oh my God, let me read it. And what I read was, no, not what I was right the whole time. This chick is traveling with these multi-millionaires and billionaires, and they have their own planes, they have their own this, they have their own that. Most of them don't even have passports to go anywhere because they don't need them. So again, it's not about wealth, it's about resources. How resourceful are you with the opportunity, with the shit that you actually have, right? And that even like their money, they consider taxes theft. Theft.
Well,
Like no, dead ass. That's why a lot of them don't pay it, because they're like, you're not going to steal from me. Oh, and here's a great thing about this
okay,
book.
I'll throw this in here. I'll throw this in here.
Right.
That life must be nice because if I said fuck taxes, I ain't gonna pay them. I'm going to jail. They'll put me in jail because I don't have. Listen, I don't have the connections or resources to duck a tax evasion charge, and I don't have lawyers to throw
Correct.
a tax evasion
Correct.
charge.
Correct. But you know what though? You know what's really crazy is that if you sit down and read this book, I think it's like 3/4 of the way into it.
Well, there's
Hold on.
legally and illegally because
Legally and
there's off the
illegally.
book stuff.
Correct. So, but yes, so how they get away with it through a lot of them is these offshore accounts on different stuff, whatever. The same exact thing that Apple did, same exact thing that Nike did, same exact thing that a lot of these other companies have done is they'll put their companies in other places so that they don't have to pay that much taxes. You'd be surprised that, like, if you look at the IRS and the people that they go after, 90% of the people, actually the number's higher. I'm just gonna say 90. 90% of the people that they go after are people like us.
Right.
The rest of the people that owe so much money that it's absolutely ridiculous, they will never collect that.
It's but
Never.
The reason why they don't do it is because they don't have enough resources to get through all the frameworks and
Not whatsoever.
all the trap doors that a
Not
rich person can put in.
whatsoever.
So,
And that's the reason why they're not trying to
we're
they're
easy
not
pickings.
trying to do all that. Right. We are easy pickings. That's the reason why they target us. Now, if everybody said, fuck you, we're not paying you anymore, we're done. You can't put all of us in prison. So they'd have to switch it up and do something different. But being that enough people won't stand up, the only time that I've ever seen people stand up to the IRS was creating a church. The Church of Scientology is one of the only times in my history that I've been alive that that's happened. That a group of people stood up to the IRS and won.
So,
and all they were doing was trying to get their church at a status, a tax-free status.
they got the deep,
Hey,
but they got deep pockets.
Liberty Twitcher, you don't have to listen to me. Go read the book yourself. And here's the thing: it's not just that book. There's a bunch. What is the other book that I read? How the other side banks.
Mm-hmm.
Just read banking books. They'll tell you. Again, when you call me an autodidact, I love to read, and I get this little hair up my ass every so often, just to read different shit. Most of the time, I don't even want to, but it's kind of like, nah, you got to. There's something in there for you to read. So I'm telling you, dude, they get away with a lot of that stuff. Matter of fact, don't take my word for it. Look at Trump. When they were asking him for his stuff, what did he say during the first debate?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say during his first debate when he was talking to Hillary? You remember what he said to her? When she said, "You don't even pay taxes." What did he say back to her? You're right. Because people like you and your people allow me to do that. That he said it himself on national TV.
Yeah,
On national TV. So again, I hear what you're saying, but go read it yourself. Matter of fact, listen to what Trump says. He said it. That was the first time. As a matter of fact, what's my man's name? Dave Chappelle, during one of his stand-ups was like, dude, that's the first time that I've ever seen somebody call out the government and the government couldn't do anything about it. Like call them out for the shit that they do and let people like him get away with, and there's nothing they're gonna do about it. Right? But they're not going to close those loopholes.
No, they're never going to do
They're
that.
not going to close that shit.
They've actually entrenched those loopholes with all
Yeah,
this.
they're not closing shit.
A couple weeks ago, we did the distraction one, the episode about distraction, right? They got everybody to look at this other thing about this dangling this piece about, oh, these people that you don't want to get things are going to get things, and then they built in all these tax loopholes and trapdoors for themselves to benefit business owners and stuff like that. The loopholes are written into law now, so a lot of this stuff that we're worried about now it's law, so it's not going anywhere. They're never going to vote to give themselves less money. But I want to mention, so I want to go back and jump back to a couple things because we have a limited time here.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
I
so
love it though. Thank you so much, Liberty Twitcher. I appreciate you, man. Thank
so
you.
let's jump back and let's talk about one. It's a generational thing, right? Every generation who's in management complains about the generation that comes after them. That is a function of just time.
Okay, say that again.
Every generation who is in management is going to complain about the generation that comes after them. They're lazier, they're more entitled, they know less and stuff like that. That's just a function of time.
Just like music. Just like our parents in music, man. That ain't music. Crisscross was music, yo.
And so a lot of this is highly it really is based on your context. Because even when I was managing people, I was, oh, these younger folks are doing X, Y, and Z and stuff. It's literally just how people are raised in the environment and what's normal in their childhood versus what's normal in your childhood. And so I'm in that exennial place where I'm in between Gen X and the millennial place. And so I do have parts of the digital, like I was old enough, I was kind of almost an adult when a lot of the digital stuff, a lot of the social media stuff came around. But I also had a childhood where I wasn't connected to it. So I'm young enough to understand it, but not old enough to be not old. I mean, I'm young enough to understand it, but not to be beholden to it, if that makes sense. Gotcha. And so I would see, like, I would get staff and I'm like, man, it's just a function of being younger, where they don't, where they know that they're probably not going to spend their entire lives at one specific job. And so they're going to, it's the law of conservation. They're going to conserve their energy. They're not going to put all the effort into all of this job where they don't feel like it's going to benefit them in the near or long term. That's just what it goes. That's a function of how we've treated workers in this country. They saw how their parents got shafted by 100% throwing themselves into a job and then getting laid off. They ain't doing that no more. So whose fault is it? Is it their fault, or is it the way that we've done it? Like the old boy, Jack Welch, the CEO of GE, he created this world that we're in, this corporate culture that we're in, right? He said in his ideal world, his corporation would live on a barge and they would just go to every country that gave them the best tax benefits. Mm-hmm. He created this country, this use and abuse kind of corporate culture that we have. So what we're seeing is young people just responding to what they saw their parents endure. And so it's not necessarily a function of the school, it's a function of society. And so I don't think that there's this uniform answer where it's all school stuff. Okay. Democrats held Congress and White House for years. They had closed that loopholes too, but this isn't just the Republicans. I agree with you. Here's the thing. Democrats don't know how to govern. Republicans have no interest in governance. They just like the power. And that's been the dynamic of the current political party system. We're in like 6 or 7 version of this. That's the groundwork. One side likes all the power and they like to be able to kind of do what they want to do, heedless of what the other side says. And the other side is doing this. We're going to try to play fair and all the stuff and piss everybody off. and not get anything done for anybody. So one side isn't effective, the other side doesn't give a fuck. They're going to get done what they want to get done. That's been the nature of the two parties right now. And neither one of them necessarily benefit the people. But also, when you have a political system that is so tied to money, you're never going to get normal people who have normal jobs. Because you have to be independently wealthy to be a politician in this country. We make fun of the politicians that have normal backgrounds and stuff like that. Right? How many AOC jokes have you talked about? Oh, she's a bartender and blah, blah, blah. She's an educated woman. I don't care if you agree with her politics or whatnot. She's educated, but she came from a blue class background. We have a couple here that are local. They get made fun of because they're just, you need to go back to whatever store you came from. Like they're normal people. But they get made fun of. So,
hey, Liberty Twitcher, real quick. I just bought that book, Brickneck. And I think that's going to be really good, actually. I just looked at that. I'm not sure when I'm going to read it, but I did buy it.
Bro, I can't. And to your point, don't comment before you. I can't read the piece while I'm on a live stream, bro.
Like hey. So here's the thing. I also, Liberty Twitcher. Yeah, like I said, I just bought it. I just bought the book. So, and I go through these peers or whatever. So I'm pretty sure I'll get it and read it. And it's something I'm already interested in. Matter of fact, we were just talking about. Hold on one sec. I'm sorry. I recommended it so you can see what's happening in China versus the U.S. Not so we can copy China, but so we can see how lost we become. I don't know when you actually stepped on to our podcast, but Brian, was I not talking about that?
Yeah, we had talked about all that.
Yeah, we was already talking about that because I was reading another book. And that's what I was saying before, that the difference between America and China is that China puts their money back into the infrastructure of their country, period. Now, I was also saying that they don't have the best workforce development or the way that they treat their employees and this, that, and the other, because they got so many people that are just kind of disposable or whatever. But the feats that they have right now, it's so crazy. Hold on. And we put our money into a lawyer to throw monkey riches, that part. And China doesn't really have a lot of that. You either do what we say or you guys have problems. But so I did read that. The other thing is that I also downloaded the piece because I couldn't download it from from your link, Liberty Twitter. So what I did was I took a picture of it and then I copied and pasted the actual thing into Google. It pops it up, but I'm not subscribed to Wall Street Journal,
and
so it won't let me read. And they won't let me read the whole entire thing.
And so I can't access it either. But here's what I'm gonna say, and understand this. So if you're going to post, and this is just this is a journalistic. This is a critique from a journalism major. When you post an article to validate a point, don't post an opinion piece.
Okay, say that one more time.
When you post an article to get somebody to view a point, do not post an opinion piece. Don't post an editorial piece in response to, because an editorial piece is the paper already disavows what they say, that the editorial is not the editorial already doesn't necessarily meet their journalistic standard. That's why it's on the opinion page. You're saying this is people's opinion. This is not something that's steeped in fact. So if you're going to post something like that, I'm going to read the article if I can get access to it. I don't have a Wall Street Journal subscription. I can't.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So it says opinion.
Yeah, don't post an opinion piece. Go ahead. If you're talking about a fact-based argument, find an article that actually talks about that actually shows it. Don't go with the opinion piece, because a lot of times when you post an opinion piece, there's no editorial oversight on on an opinion piece. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm not even shooting it down. I'm going to read it, but what I'm saying is don't post an opinion piece. Don't post a piece that's on the opinion page, because that means now I got to go vet all the I have to go into this article and vet every single source in order to figure out what's true and what's not true, because there's no journalistic standard applied to it, because it's an opinion piece. Now, they're going to say you can't slay slurs or anything along those lines or make wild, unfounded accusations, of course, but still, by virtue of it being on the opinion page, means that it has a lower journalistic standard than something that would
Okay.
normally get in there.
Okay. So then, Liberty Twitch. Quick question. Is there? Can you find something like this that's an actual
Find the study.
like? Yeah. I mean,
Send me the study, bro.
yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Send
yeah,
me
yeah.
the study. Because I can look at the
I didn't
study.
even think about that. I didn't know that.
I can't try. Okay, bro, I can't try the link because I don't have any way to. It doesn't create a hyperlink on my page.
Yeah.
We're
No,
using
yeah.
StreamYard. We're using StreamYard. So when we click on it, all it does is post it on our page. So
Yeah.
there's no
That's it.
hyperlink for us to go to.
That's why I had to take a picture of it.
Yeah, and if I open up another tab, all that's going to do is it's going to screw up our sound because
Yeah.
it's gonna have the live stream from the Facebook where I can open it up and read it. So send us the actual link, and then we can copy and paste it. All right.
Mm.
But the actual, instead of that, send me the study is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can't click on the hyperlink without. I would
No,
have to
I
open,
know that.
yeah,
I know that. I'm talking about the study versus the opinion.
yeah, send me the
I
study.
never knew that. Okay.
Yeah, because you can even vet studies. Like my mom did epidemiology. I helped her out with some of the papers and stuff, and did look. There's a whole process to vet sources and things like that. So send me the study.
Oh shit. Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah, we're not saying we can't access. I'm saying I can't access the link through StreamYard, which is the platform we're using. I can't see it. Now opening up a new tab will absolutely screw it up. So, all right, I will pull this link up off air and take a look at it while we're doing this. Because we're 2 hours in, and I haven't even
Yeah,
finished.
and real quick, then I'm a real fast. I wanted to tell Liberty Twitch, I got your Barry West Can Reading Fix Men and your other recommendations for your other stuff. So I did write everything that you said down. Like I said on our podcast, man, we don't. This is trial and error for a reason. Like we don't know everything, and I will at least go check the stuff out if somebody says
Yeah.
something to me.
Whoop!
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I review a lot of the stuff on here. I'm just throwing out a piece of advice when you're interacting on here. Specifically, send us the article, send us a link to the
Okay, I
article,
got you.
and then we'll take it offline. We'll take it offline and see. All right.
And then next Tuesday we can be like, oh, okay, hey, we sat down, we read everything, and then we can just kind of go, yeah, please do. And I'm going to watch that video too because, again, I'm a reader, so
Yeah.
I would love to understand that part, especially when it comes to literacy, man. That's my shit, man. That's my shit. So yeah, all right, Brian. What else were you saying though, bro?
So I guess we're about 2 hours in. I want to kind of start wrapping it up here because I got a couple
Okay.
other streams I got to get done too. Currently, book I'm reading is 10x is easier than 2x. I'm gonna put that on the screen here real quick.
Ooh. Okay.
There's some cognitive science in here. Or it's about goal setting, but talking about how we view setting goals. And so far, a lot of the content is basically it's easier to set because if you're trying to 10x something, that means that you need to divorce yourself from the person you were and embrace who you want to be. A 2x is a moderate change, and more times than not, when we try to make a moderate change, it doesn't stick as well. When we set big audacious goals, we tend to start pursuing those a little bit easier. So,
hey, you know what? That does make a lot of sense too, because when I said that I was going to do 100 days, 100 nights, that's totally different than saying that, hey, I'm just going to be on here a couple days a week.
mm-hmm.
It forced me out of my comfort zone to do some shit, yo.
Right.
It forced me.
So, and so I'm reading this one. So hopefully I can be done by next week so I can have some takes on it. But just for shits and gigs, I went ahead and said, what does 10xing some of my current endeavors that I'm in, this nonprofit I'm growing, and the 2 businesses I'm tied to. And it gave me some good insights to try. Of what 10x.
Give me some.
Setting big audacious, like for launching this nonprofit, setting huge fundraiser goals. And kind of gave me a like, try this as a fundraiser, try that as a fundraiser, where I'm sitting there trying to figure out, $5, $10. They're talking about $20,000, $30,000 ideas for the
God
fundraisers and whatnot.
damn.
It
Okay.
changed. It changed my
Fine.
perspective.
Oh,
It ch-
okay, I'm gonna have to get that book right now. I'm gonna get it right now.
yeah.
Stop talking. Stop talking. That's what I tell people. Stop talking. I'm done with you. I'm done listening to you. I
So
gotta read the book now.
but yeah, that's the book I'm reading right now. I actually started going back and reading Daniel Pink's A Brand New Mind.
All right, hold
Which
on,
is
hold on. That's Daniel Sullivan.
yep.
Okay, hold on. Oh damn, that one got some. Okay, boom. All right, bought it.
And so I'm doing that, and I actually started going back. And the reason why I started on this is because I went back and started reading some of the Daniel Pink stuff about selling and a whole new mind and stuff. Um, and I've been back into the more mindset kind of content for books and stuff like that after going on a fiction kick. And so I'm just kind of pivoting back around with my goal setting and stuff like that, and kind of staking my flag in the sand, and talking about some big things with the stand store and things along those lines, and visioning the life that I actually want for myself. And so this is kind of that pathway. But I guess we're going to finish up the rest of this at another time, because there's a whole lot more that we were going to go
Yeah,
over.
dude, I know.
So
Yeah, Liberty Twitcher, man, you're amazing. I'm just gonna throw that out there, man. You throw some monkey wrenches in our conversations, and I love it. Thank you.
So right now, guys, I have Fearless's stand store up on the screen. If you want
Yeah,
to,
if you just need a philosophical guy to sit down and kind of talk to, or you just need somebody to listen to you, man, I'm available. Hit me up. Yeah, we'll go from there.
and so this is Fearless's. I'm putting mine up. For whatever reason, StreamYard won't let us have more than one QR code on the screen at the time.
Yeah, so take a picture of my stuff.
I'll put
However,
Fearless's back on.
yeah,
So this is Fearless's. If you need a philosopher in a box, bro, like somebody just to kind of give you a new perspective,
boom.
reframe some stuff for you, go ahead and hit him up. For me, my stand store is going to be access for my marketing brain, access for my sales brain, and access to a lot of my marketing things that I use, templates, frameworks, and things that I use to create outcomes for my clients. And so if you're interested in that, that's what's going to be in the stand store. You're going to find a link to my school community, where it's for business owners to figure out how to leverage social media to level up their businesses. But then also I have some other stuff in here. I'm actually building out I'm going to be putting some downloadable templates with some lead magnets and stuff that are basically a one-shot marketing department. It has everything you would need to market across multiple businesses. So you're going to find that in the stand store. But otherwise, guys, we do appreciate y'all tuning in. We will catch y'all next week. It's been Brian.
Fearless.
Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Doses.